For thousands of years, her name was written in blood and fear. The Dragon Empress. No human ever left her throne room alive. Kings had tried. Soldiers had tried. Adventurers, mercenaries, even priests who carried holy fire. All had entered her hall and none had returned. Their ashes were scattered across the stars, a warning to all mankind. Her throne was said to rest on living fire. Her guards were dragons with wings as wide as ships. Her eyes burned like twin suns, and her breath could turn steel into molten rivers. Every story spoke the same truth. No human survived facing her. And yet, today, one man prepared to walk through her gates. He was not a warrior. He was not a prince. He was not even a soldier. He was an engineer. His name was Kale. He came from the lower colonies, a place where machines mattered more than people. Kale was known only for repairing broken engines, patching rusted circuits, and crawling through fuel pipes that others were too afraid to touch. He was quiet, ordinary, and carried no sword. But fate had chosen him for a task no one wanted. The Empress's throne, it was said, had grown unstable. Her seat of power, built from technology older than empires, was failing. No dragon could mend it, no alien scholar dared approach it. It was alive with deadly energy, and one mistake could mean death even for her. So she demanded a human. The rulers of Kale's world trembled. To refuse her command was to invite destruction. Her fleets could burn entire cities in hours. So they searched among the humans for one who could work with machines, one who could be thrown to the fire. Kale was chosen. He did not fight the decision. He did not cry out in anger. He packed his tools, tightened his gloves, and boarded the ship that would carry him to her palace. The journey was silent. The guards who escorted him never spoke. They were scaled, winged creatures with burning eyes. They treated him as if he were already dead. To them, he was just another sacrifice, another fool who would walk into the throne room and vanish in smoke. When the ship landed, Kale stepped onto the black stone of her palace. The walls rose like mountains, carved with flames that seemed to move when he looked too long. The gates were taller than towers, sealed with marks that glowed red as if drawn in fresh blood. The guards pushed him forward. The air was thick and hot, like breathing fire. Each step echoed in his ears. He could hear his own heartbeat, loud and uneven, like a hammer against steel. Inside, the palace was a place of shadows. Giant statues of dragons lined the halls. Their eyes were gems that glimmered with inner fire. The floor was black glass, polished smooth, and each time he stepped, he saw his reflection. Small, fragile, out of place. Whispers followed him. They came not from people, but from the walls themselves, as if the stones remembered every soul that had died here. No human lived after facing her. No human lived after facing her. Kale gripped the strap of his tool bag tighter. His fingers shook, but his eyes stayed sharp. He told himself what he always did when working on dangerous machines. It is just a system. It is only parts and energy. Do not fear it. Fix it. The great hall opened before him. At the far end stood the throne of the Dragon Empress. It was massive, made of black metal that pulsed with streams of red light. The throne was not carved. It was alive, humming like a great heart. Sparks danced along its surface. Cracks of energy crawled across the floor, like veins of lightning. And sitting upon it was the Dragon Empress herself. She was taller than any human, her form half dragon, half woman, cloaked in scales that glimmered like burning coals. Her wings stretched wide, casting shadows across the hall. Her eyes fixed on Kale, glowing like suns that never set. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then her voice came, deep and sharp, carrying power that shook the air. "Another human," she said. "Another fragile body sent to die in my throne room." Her guards hissed in laughter. Their tails scraped against the floor. Kale bowed his head, but not too low. His voice was steady, though inside his chest his heart threatened to break. "I was told," he answered, "that your throne needs repair." The Empress leaned forward. Firelight flared from her breath. "You dare to speak so plainly?" she asked. Do you know where you stand, human? Do you know what happened to the last who stood before me? Kale nodded. Yes, none lived. The hall grew silent again. Every dragon I focused on him, waiting for him to collapse, to tremble, to beg for mercy. But Kale did not. His hands still shook, yes, but his voice held steady. I am not here to fight you, he said. I am here to fix the machine. The Empress's eyes narrowed. Sparks leapt from the throne behind her, as if it were listening, hungering. Then fix it, she said at last. Her voice echoed like thunder. But know this, little human. If you fail, your ashes will be scattered among the stars, and your name will be forgotten before the fire cools. The guards pushed him forward until he stood before the great throne. Heat rolled from it like waves from a furnace. His skin burned though no flame touched him. Kale opened his tool bag. The familiar weight of his instruments gave him courage. He knelt before the living throne of the Dragon Empress, surrounded by eyes full of hate and hunger. His hands hovered above the pulsing metal. He whispered only to himself, "It is just another system, just another repair." But deep inside, Kale knew the truth. This was no simple engine. This was no ordinary task. This was the Forbidden Throne. And tonight, for the first time in history, a human had been allowed to touch it. The hall grew darker. The throne's light grew stronger. The dragons waited, ready to kill at the first mistake. And the Empress herself leaned back, watching, her eyes glowing brighter with every passing second. Kale took a deep breath, placed his hand on the throne's surface, and began his work. The air inside the throne room was heavy, thick with heat and smoke. Each breath Kale took burned his lungs, as if he were swallowing fire. The walls glowed faintly, alive with the shimmer of molten veins running beneath their black stone surface. Every shadow seemed alive, and every echo of his steps was swallowed by the silence of dragons. The guards stood in a wide circle around him, their wings folded, their golden eyes never blinking. Their scales caught the firelight, glowing red and gold, like blades pulled straight from the forge. They did not move, yet Kale felt their hatred, felt the weight of their hunger pressing against him. He was prey, and they were waiting for the command to tear him apart. The throne pulsed behind them, a monstrous machine built from ancient metal and living flame. It hummed and shook with every heartbeat of its core. Sparks cracked across its surface, climbing up the high pillars and falling like burning rain. Kale's hands clenched tighter around his tools. This was no ordinary device. It was alive, and it did not want him near. The Empress leaned forward in her throne, her wings spreading wide like curtains of shadow. Her presence was so vast that Kale felt smaller than he had ever felt in his life. She was not just a ruler. She was power made flesh, flame given form. Her eyes pierced him as if they could strip him apart and read the bones beneath his skin. Her voice filled the chamber. "Do you fear me, human?" Kale lifted his head. His throat was dry, but his words came steady. "Yes." The dragons hissed at his honesty, their teeth flashing in the light. But the Empress did not strike. Instead, she smiled, a sharp, dangerous curve of her lips. "Good," she said. "Fear is wisdom, yet you stand. You walk. You speak. Strange for a human." Kale did not answer. He let silence hold him, as he always did when working near dangerous machines. Talking wasted energy. Talking made mistakes. The Empress tilted her head. Her crown of horns caught the light as her gaze swept over him. "You are not like the others. They came here shouting their bravery. They came here swearing their strength. They left as dust. You bring no sword. Only iron tools. Only hands that tremble but do not drop their burden." Kale bent near the throne, his eyes studying the broken seams of its black metal. The cracks pulsed with unstable fire. The energy streams twisted like serpents, feeding on themselves. It was beautiful and terrible, a design far beyond human science. He muttered softly to himself, his old habit when facing broken machines. Overheated circuits, misaligned conduits, fractured core links. The Empress's ears twitched. She leaned forward again. "You speak to yourself?" Or to my throne? Kale did not look up. To the system. The dragons hissed in outrage. One slammed his tail against the floor, shaking the hall. Show respect, human dog. You stand before the Empress. Kale finally raised his head. His eyes met the Empress's blazing stare. His voice was calm, though his chest hammered with fear. Respect is given through work. Let me do what I came to do. A silence fell. The guards shifted uneasily, waiting for her to burn him where he stood. But the Empress did not lift her hand. Instead, her smile widened, showing teeth sharp as swords. You speak boldly for one so fragile, she said. Very well, you may begin. But know this. If a single spark touches me, your body will burn before you draw your next breath. Kale gave a single nod. His heart pounded, but his mind sharpened. He had seen dying engines before. He had worked with unstable cores and failing power grids. Machines always whispered their secrets if you listened closely enough. He crouched beside the throne, opening the side panel. At once, the chamber glowed brighter. Inside the throne's body was not metal and wire, but streams of liquid light, coiling and twisting like rivers of fire. They hummed in rhythms, like the slow heartbeat of some giant beast. Kale's breath caught in his chest. He had never seen anything like this. The throne was not a chair. It was a living engine, a creature of energy and design. It was both technology and life form, bonded together in ways humans could not dream of. Still, he forced himself to look at it the way he looked at every broken machine. He searched for patterns. He traced the pulses of power. He listened to the rhythm of the hum. Slowly, a picture began to form in his mind. It was failing, yes, but not because of age. Someone had wounded it. Someone had bent its veins, poisoned its heart. He reached out with his tools. The metal was hot, but he had worked in hotter places. Sparks licked his gloves, biting his skin even through the thick cloth. He gritted his teeth, holding steady. The throne hissed. Its hum grew louder, angrier, as if it did not trust his touch. Sparks sprayed across the floor. The guards raised their weapons, ready to strike. Careful, human. One hissed. One wrong move and you die. Kale ignored them. His focus narrowed. His hand twisted the first conduit, realigning its flow. At once, the hum shifted, smoother, steadier. The throne pulsed with a softer glow. The Empress's eyes widened slightly. Her lips parted. For the first time in centuries, her throne had obeyed a human hand. Kale pulled back, wiping the sweat from his brow. His heart thundered. He knew this was only the beginning. The deeper he reached, the more dangerous it would become. One mistake and he would not even have time to scream. The Empress leaned back, her gaze never leaving him. Strange, she said. You are fragile, yet the throne accepts your hand. Tell me, human, why do you not tremble like the others? Kale closed his tool bag slowly. He met her blazing eyes. His voice was low but firm. Fear never fixed a machine. For a moment, the hall was silent. The guards stared, stunned. The Empress's smile faded, replaced by something colder, sharper, curiosity. The shadows around her throne grew darker. The throne itself glowed brighter, alive and dangerous. And Kale knew this was not just repair. This was a test. The first move had been made. The game between the Dragon Empress and the lone human engineer had begun. The throne room fell into silence. The glow of the Empress's seat pulsed like a living heart, throwing red and gold light across the walls. The dragons around Kale did not move. They only stared, their eyes burning like lanterns, their claws digging into the black glass floor. The air was heavy, so hot that Kale's skin was damp with sweat. He worked on machines before. He knew the smell of burning wires, the sting of leaking fuel, the hum of power about to break free. But this was different. The throne did not smell of metal or oil. It smelled of ash and firestorms. Its hum was not the hum of an engine but the breath of some giant beast. Kale bent closer. His hands shook as he lifted another panel, revealing deeper channels of liquid light running like veins. They twisted and pulsed, alive with energy. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "Not broken, not dead, just angry." The Empress heard him. Her voice cut through the silence. "Angry, you say? Do you think my throne feels human?" Kale did not look up. "Yes, machines always feel. Not like people, not like dragons, but in their own way. When something is wrong, they tell you. If you listen." The dragons growled, their wings twitching in anger. One snapped, "Do not speak of feelings. This is no toy, human. You insult the Empress." But the Empress lifted her hand. At once, the hall grew quiet again. She leaned forward, her eyes blazing brighter. "And what does my throne tell you?" Kale's fingers brushed across the glowing channels. Sparks bit into his skin, but he held steady. "It tells me it is tired. It tells me someone forced it to do what it was not meant to do. Its veins are twisted, its heart is misaligned. If I don't calm it, it will tear itself apart." The Empress tilted her head, her claws gripping the armrests of her seat. For the first time, her gaze did not burn with anger but with thought. She said nothing. Kale pulled out a small tool, one he had used thousands of times before. Nothing more than a shaped rod of steel with a magnetic edge. To him it was simple. To the dragons it was alien. They hissed as the tool touched the living metal of the throne. The hum changed. It grew louder, sharper, as if the throne was crying out. The floor trembled beneath Kale's knees. A surge of power shot upward, climbing the walls in streams of red fire. The guards roared in alarm, wings spreading wide. One stepped forward. "He offends the throne. Let me kill him now." But again the Empress raised her hand. "Wait." Her voice shook the chamber. "The throne resists. Tests him. Let us see if he survives the test." Kale gritted his teeth. His tool vibrated violently, almost torn from his grip. The energy fought against him, pushing him back. He felt heat bite through his gloves, burning his palms. His chest tightened, and his vision blurred from the brightness. But he remembered the words he always told himself. It is only a system. Every system has a pattern. He listened, not with his ears, but with his mind. Beneath the roar, beneath the sparks, beneath the chaos, there was rhythm. A slow, steady rhythm, like the beat of a hidden drum. Kale adjusted his grip. He shifted the conduit by a fraction. At once, the rhythm steadied. The hum smoothed. The violent sparks softened into a glowing stream. The throne settled, its anger dimming, its fire flowing into order. The hall fell still. The dragons froze in disbelief. Never had they seen a human touch the living throne without being reduced to ash. Yet here was one, kneeling, his hands burned, his face pale, but alive. And the throne listened to him. The Empress's eyes narrowed. Her voice came slow, deliberate. "You hear it. You truly hear it. No human has ever." She stopped, her gaze sharpening like a blade. "Tell me, Kale of the lower colonies, why do you hear what others cannot?" Kale lowered his tool. His voice was quiet. "Because I never stopped listening." The words hung in the air. The dragons looked at each other uneasily, their tails scraping against the floor. The Empress studied him as though he were some strange puzzle she could not solve. The throne glowed steady now, but Kale knew it was not fixed. This was only the surface. The deeper parts of the system were still unstable. He could sense it, feel the trembling energy beneath the calm. He opened another section of the throne. This time the light inside was darker, unstable, writhing like a nest of serpents. The moment his tool touched it, the entire hall shook with a violent surge. Flames shot up from the cracks in the floor. The dragons leapt back in alarm, their roars shaking the walls. One shouted, "He will destroy us all." The Empress rose from her seat. Her wings unfolded fully, spreading across the hall. Shadows stretched like claws over the walls. Fire burned between her teeth. "Enough!" she thundered. Her gaze pinned Kale like a spear. "You risk your life. You risk my throne. Why do you not tremble?" Kale's body shook. His arms ached. His skin burned where the sparks had struck him. But his voice came clear, even as sweat ran down his face. Because trembling never fixed anything. Fear never held the pieces together. If I listen, if I keep steady, I can make it right. The Empress stared at him for a long time. Her wings slowly folded back. She lowered herself into her seat once more. Her eyes still blazed, but the fire in them was no longer just rage. There was something else, something dangerous. Curiosity. The throne settled again under Kale's hands, though its glow was uneven, like a heartbeat struggling to keep pace. He sat back on his knees, chest heaving, every muscle screaming. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. Finally, the Empress spoke. Her voice was softer now, but still sharp. Strange human, you do not fight me. You do not worship me. You do not fear me as you should. Instead, you dare to touch the fire that even my kind fears. You have passed the throne's first test. The dragons murmured among themselves, their voices low and uneasy. No human had ever lasted this long, let alone earned such words from their Empress. Kale lowered his head, not in worship, but in exhaustion. He whispered to himself words only he could hear. First test. That means there will be more. The throne pulsed once more, steady but restless, as if waiting. And Kale knew. The silent test was only the beginning. The throne chamber was quiet again, but the silence was heavy, filled with the weight of unseen fire. Kale knelt before the throne, his hands burned and trembling, his breath uneven. The dragons around him watched with narrowed eyes, their claws scratching against the black glass floor, their tails twitching in restless anger. They had expected to see him fail. They had expected to hear his screams, to watch his body turn to ash. Instead, he still lived. The throne still glowed, and their Empress, mighty, terrible, eternal, had not ended him. The silence broke when the throne pulsed violently. Its glow flared, spilling streams of fire across the cracks in the floor. Sparks shot upward, racing along the tall pillars, raining down like burning stars. The air turned sharp, hot, filled with the smell of scorched stone. Kale shielded his face, coughing against the heat. He forced his eyes open. The throne was not calm. It was angry again, its energy boiling, thrashing like a wild beast chained too long. The dragons roared in alarm. One shouted, "The throne rejects him. Kill him before it destroys us." But the Empress raised her hand. Her wings stretched, her voice echoing across the chamber like thunder. "Stand down. The throne is testing him again. Let it test." Her guards froze, though their claws dug deeper into the floor, ready to strike the moment she allowed it. Kale gritted his teeth. His chest felt like fire was filling it, but he pushed his hands back to the throne. He had no choice. If he stopped, if he gave in, the throne would consume him, and the Empress would let it happen. He whispered to himself, as he always did, "Every system has a pattern. Every flame has a heart. Find the center. Hold it steady." The sparks grew wilder. Energy whipped out like whips of lightning, slashing across the hall. One stream of fire struck a dragon guard, sending him crashing against the wall with a roar of pain. Another bolt hit a pillar, splitting stone and filling the air with smoke. The throne was breaking apart. Kale's vision blurred. The light was too bright, the heat too strong. His tools slipped in his sweaty hands, nearly falling. He forced himself to focus. His eyes followed the streams of fire inside the throne. They twisted in chaos, colliding against each other, each trying to dominate the other. He saw it then. The flow was wrong. The energy wasn't being guided. It was fighting itself, like rivers colliding instead of merging. It needed balance. It needed a steady hand. Kale reached forward. His gloves smoked as he grabbed two glowing conduits with his bare fingers. Pain exploded up his arms, but he held on, pulling them apart, forcing the streams of fire into new paths. The throne screamed. The sound was not metal. It was alive, a roar that shook the hall and made the dragons cover their ears. Flames burst from the cracks, climbing higher, surrounding Kale in a storm of sparks and heat. The guards could take no more. One stepped forward, claws ready to rip Kale apart. "He will kill us all." But again, the Empress's voice cut through the fire. "Wait!" Her eyes locked on Kale. She leaned forward in her seat, her breath glowing with firelight. For the first time in centuries, she did not look amused, nor angry. She looked curious. Kale pulled harder. His arms shook, his palms blistered, his body screaming in pain. But slowly, very slowly, the streams obeyed. The energy shifted, untangling, flowing into smoother lines. The sparks dimmed. The wild roars of fire softened into a steady hum. The hall grew still again. Kale fell back on his knees, gasping. His hands blackened and raw. He nearly collapsed, but he forced himself to stay upright. His head spun, his vision swam, but the throne pulsed with a steady glow. The dragons stared in disbelief. They whispered among themselves, their voices sharp and uneasy. "Impossible! No human can touch the fire. No human should have lived." The Empress rose slowly from her throne. Her wings unfolded, casting shadows like vast curtains across the chamber. The firelight gleamed against her scales as she stepped forward, towering over Kale. She studied him in silence for a long moment. Her gaze was like fire piercing his very soul. Then, she spoke, her voice softer but no less dangerous. "You do not cry out. You do not beg. You suffer, but you endure. Why?" Kale raised his head weakly. His voice was hoarse, but steady. "Because fear never fixed an engine. Pain never stopped a machine from breaking. You hold steady or everything falls apart." Her eyes narrowed. Her lips curled, not into a snarl, but into something far stranger. A smile. A sharp, deadly smile, but still a smile. The dragons gasped. Never had they seen their Empress smile at a human. She tilted her head, her horns catching the glow of the throne behind her. "You speak as if the throne were no different from the toys you repair. Do you not know that one mistake will cost you your life?" Kale forced himself to stand, though his legs trembled. His burned hands hung at his sides. He looked up at her, meeting her blazing eyes. Machines do not care who touches them. They do not care about kings or queens. They only answer to hands that understand them. The hall fell silent again. The Empress stared at him, her smile fading into something colder, sharper. She turned slowly, walking back to her throne. Her wings folded, her claws scraped softly against the black glass. She lowered herself into her seat once more, the throne glowing steady beneath her. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was quiet, but it carried through the hall like a blade through air. "Strange human, you fix what my kind fears to touch. You suffer, yet you endure. Perhaps you are more than fragile after all." The guards shifted uneasily, whispering to each other, but none dared interrupt. Kale stood, swaying, his body weak, his skin burned. He knew this was not the end. The throne was calmer now, but not healed. And the Empress had not spared him out of kindness. She was watching him, testing him, waiting to see how far he could go before he broke. The silence stretched. The firelight dimmed. The throne pulsed like a heartbeat, alive and waiting. And Kale knew the next test would be worse, much worse. The throne chamber smelled of smoke and scorched stone. The glow of the great seat pulsed steady now, calmer than before, but the silence around it was thick, heavy with unspoken fear. Kale stood swaying on his feet, his hands blistered, his face pale, but he had not fallen. He was the first human in history to touch the throne of the Dragon Empress and live. The dragons around the hall whispered among themselves. Their voices were low, uneasy, filled with disbelief. No human should have survived. The fire should have burned him. The throne should have swallowed him whole. The Empress sat tall upon her throne, her wings folded, her gaze fixed on the lone engineer before her. Her eyes glowed like two burning suns, unreadable, dangerous. She leaned forward, her claws curling around the black armrests. "Tell me, human," she said, her voice sharp as flame. "Why do you not scream when the fire burns you? Why do you not beg for mercy as the others did?" Kale's throat was dry, his chest aching from the heat, but his voice came steady. Because screaming doesn't fix anything. Mercy doesn't mend broken veins. The throne doesn't need fear. It needs steady hands. The dragons hissed at his boldness. One slammed his tail against the floor, sparks flying. He dares speak so plainly to our Empress. End him now. But she raised her hand, and at once, the hall grew silent. Her gaze never left Kale. Slowly, a dangerous smile spread across her face. You are bold, human. Bold and foolish, yet useful. Kale frowned, his burned hands curling into fists. He knew what came next. No ruler, dragon or human ever praised without reason. The Empress's voice dropped lower, colder. My throne obeys you. My fire does not consume you. Perhaps fate whispers in your blood. So I offer you a choice, Kale of the lower colonies. The dragons leaned forward, their eyes gleaming. They had never heard their Empress offer a human anything. Her wings shifted, throwing shadows across the walls. Serve me. Become mine. Mend what no dragon dares touch. Give your hands to my fire, and I will grant you life. The hall was silent, every creature waiting. Then her voice hardened. Refuse, and you die where you stand. The words cut sharper than any blade. Kale's heart hammered. His body ached. His skin screamed from burns. But none of that weighed as heavy as her command. Serve her or be ended. He closed his eyes for a brief moment. In his mind, he saw the colonies where he grew up. Rusted towers, broken ships, hungry families scraping for survival. He remembered the faces of those who sent him here, not with hope, but with fear. He had not come as a hero. He had come as a tool, thrown into the fire to keep others safe. If he said yes, he would live. But he would belong to her. The humans would call him traitor, a slave to the very ruler who burned their worlds. If he said no, his ashes would scatter before he could draw his next breath. The Empress leaned closer, her eyes glowing brighter, searching his face. Decide, human. Now. The dragons hissed eagerly, their claws ready, their wings twitching. They wanted blood. They wanted to see this human defy her and die. Kale looked up, his face pale but his voice steady. First, he lifted his tool bag slowly, the weight heavy in his burned hands. Let me finish the repair. The chamber erupted with noise. The dragons roared in fury, their voices shaking the black stone walls. Arrogant human! How dare he delay her command? Tear him apart! But the Empress raised her hand again, and the roars died at once. Her smile returned, sharper than fire. Strange. Even with death before you, you choose the machine first. Why? Kale's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. He spoke each word slowly, carefully. Because the throne is not ready. If I leave it half-healed, it will break again. And when it breaks again, it will kill more than me. It will kill this hall. It may kill you. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. The Empress studied him long, her eyes unreadable. Finally, she leaned back against the throne. Her wings folded tight, her claws tapping against the armrest in thought. Very well, she said at last. Finish it. Show me if your fragile hands can tame the fire completely. But know this, Kale of the lower colonies, if you fail now, I will not wait for the throne to burn you. I will end you myself. The dragons bowed their heads, their wings folding low. None dared question her. Kale turned back to the glowing throne. His body screamed with exhaustion, but his mind sharpened. He knelt once more, opening the deepest panel of the throne. Inside, the light was darker, the streams of fire twisting violently like snakes trapped in a pit. The energy surged and cracked, ready to explode at the smallest mistake. He tightened his gloves, though the cloth was already blackened. He whispered softly to himself, words no one else could hear. It's only another system, only another repair. Hold steady. The Empress leaned forward again, her burning gaze fixed on him. She did not smile now. She did not speak. She only watched, her curiosity sharp, her patience thin. The dragons shifted uneasily, their tails scraping the floor, their eyes fixed on the human who had dared to delay their Empress's command. Kale reached inside the throne. The hum deepened, the glow flared, and the air grew heavy with heat. This was no simple repair. This was the heart of the throne. One wrong move would not only kill him, it would set the entire hall ablaze. And yet, his hands did not tremble. The bargain of fire had been spoken. His choice was clear. He would finish the repair. He would tame the throne, or he would die trying. The throne chamber glowed red as Kale worked. The heat grew stronger with each passing breath, until sweat poured down his face and the skin of his arms burned beneath his gloves. The air was heavy, filled with sparks, as if the throne itself was alive and angry. The dragons stood back, their wings raised, their eyes locked on the human. They waited for him to fail. They wanted the flames to swallow him whole. At the center of the hall, the dragon Empress sat upon her half-awakened throne. Her claws curled against the armrests, her wings stretched high. Her gaze never left Kale. She had seen countless warriors die before her seat. Yet here was a fragile human, still standing, still fighting the fire. Kale's hands moved with care. Every spark, every hum of power, every sudden flare of light could mean death. The wires inside the throne twisted like veins. Some glowed with steady fire, others burned too hot, ready to burst. He whispered under his breath, his voice shaking but steady. Balance it, cool the surge, link the veins. The energy roared, pushing back against him. The throne was ancient, built by hands no human could ever match. But machines, no matter how strange, always had rules. Kale trusted those rules. A sudden crack of lightning split through the air. The floor trembled. Dragons hissed, wings snapping open. A few roared, thinking the throne was about to explode. But Kale didn't flinch. He pressed deeper, his burned hands moving faster now. He rerouted one glowing line, then another. Sparks shot across his gloves, burning holes in the cloth. Pain stabbed through his skin, but he kept going. The Empress leaned forward, her eyes shining brighter. For the first time in 1,000 years, she whispered, "Impossible!" The roar of the throne shifted. The violent hum softened. The wild flames drew inward, folding like waves calming after a storm. Slowly, the glow steadied, its light shining golden instead of crimson. Kale exhaled hard. His body trembled, his legs weak, but he did not fall. With one final push, he closed the core plate. The throne pulsed once, then sat quiet and strong. The silence that followed was deep. Even the dragons froze. The great hall that once shook with fire was still. And then, the throne shone with pure light. The fire no longer screamed. It sang. The dragon Empress rose to her feet. Her long wings stretched wide, casting massive shadows across the walls. Her eyes, brighter than ever, locked on the lone human who had done what no one else could. She spoke, her voice low but carrying through every corner of the chamber. The throne obeys again. My fire answers. And you, Kale of the colonies, you live. Gasps echoed from the dragons. They had never heard such words from her lips. No human had ever been spared, not once in all of history. Kale wiped sweat from his brow, his hands shaking, his gloves torn to ash. He looked up at her, exhausted but unbroken. He said simply, "The repair is finished." The Empress stepped down from the throne. The sound of her claws against the stone floor echoed like thunder. She circled him slowly, her eyes burning, her voice sharp. "Do you know what you have done, human? You touched the throne of fire. You survived the heart of dragons. You made my power whole again. Any other man would be ash." Kale forced himself to stand straight, though his body begged to collapse. He met her gaze. "I only did what I was sent to do." Her tail lashed the floor, cracking the stone. "No, you did what no one else could. You should fear me, yet you do not. Tell me, Kale, what do you fear?" The hall grew tense. Dragons leaned forward, eager to hear. Kale's answer came soft, but steady. "Failure." The word echoed like a challenge. The Empress stared at him long and silent. Then slowly she smiled. Not the cruel smile she gave before battle, but something else. Something dangerous yet curious. Perhaps, she said. Not all humans are weak after all. The dragons hissed in protest. One shouted, "He is a human. He should die." Another roared, "No mortal can stand in your presence and live." But the Empress spread her wings, silencing them all. Her voice rang out like fire itself. "He lives." The hall fell into stunned silence. No dragon dared speak again. Kale staggered, his strength fading, but he held his ground. He knew he was alive because of her command. Yet he also knew the galaxies would never believe this tale. No human should have left the throne room breathing. And yet he had. The Empress returned to her seat, the throne glowing strong beneath her. She looked down at him one last time. "You may go, Kale of the colonies. Carry my fire with you. Let the stars whisper of this day." Her words sealed the moment in history. Kale bowed, not as a servant, but as an engineer who had finished his work. Then he turned and walked toward the gates. Each step was heavy, but his back was straight. The dragons moved aside, their eyes filled with fear and disbelief. Not one dared stop him. The great doors opened. Light from the outside world poured in. Kale stepped through, and for the first time in all the ages, a human walked out of the Dragon Empress's throne room alive. Behind him, whispers began to spread, carried by dragon tongues. One human lived. One human defied her fire. One human repaired the throne. Kale's name would carry across the stars, told in secret, feared by many, admired by more. The lone engineer who lived. And far inside the throne room, the Empress sat back, her eyes glowing softly as she spoke to herself. "This is not the end. This is the beginning."